No, boo, y'all still have issues too. Hey, my book peeps, it's Courtney. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is the end of April, and you know what time it is? It means grab a drink and let's wrap up the month and see what I read, okay? Now, for the month of April, it was a busy month, but I still managed to participate in the Magical Readathon and also Old School April, okay? Never did get to picture this readathon, but that's okay. It is what it is. So for this month, I read 8 books and I saw a few old school movies, okay? Good time. It's nice going back into the history annuals and looking at some stuff, okay? So let's talk about the Magical Readathon. So the Magical Readathon, I decided to go ahead and switch up my profession, and I was a hearth keeper. So I'm using the culinary arts in order to do magic. And for that, I had to read for 4 prompts. And you know what? I may have overdid it in one of those prompts, but you know what? Books were just hitting, okay? So for the first prompt, you have Alchemy, a title with all capitals. And I had a few of that. So for the first book, it was The Zetas Will Die. So this is basically about bougie sorority sisters that meet up 10 years after the death of one of their sorority sisters. And that 10-year mark also coincides with the release of the person that supposedly killed her. But then the sorority sisters start winding up dead individually, and then they start pointing the fingers at everybody, and all these secrets start coming out. Now, I did think that this book was really good, and it definitely confirmed my thought process that I did not want to join a sorority, because how well do you know these girls, okay? Because they all have secrets, and as soon as they encounter any small bit of adversity, they start turning against each other. What happened to Ride or Die? And I have your back for life. I did think that this was a good book, and it did have some twists that I didn't see coming, but it just really pissed me off how quickly these girls were willing to destroy somebody's life and then just move on. So really just cutthroat, but a decent read for sure. I also read They All Fall Down by Rachel Halsell, if I'm saying that right. Now, this is a thriller about a bunch of pretentious people that are lured to this remote island in Cancun, or just somewhere in Mexico. And when they get there, they find out, hey, you're supposed to be honoring a friend. But then one by one, they start to die. And of course, they start pointing the finger at each and every one of them. It was slow at times, but I did think that it was an intriguing book. And the end was very fitting, because these are all horrible people. But all in all, I think that if you stick with it, that it winds up being a good time. I also read Lights Out, which is a, you know, smutty romance, dark stalker romance book. Dedicated video. I'm gonna link it below. It's a good time. It has some questionable stuff in it, but definitely a good time. Just roll with that one too, okay? That knife, Then you have The Queen's Spade. Now, The Queen's Spade is actually historical fiction, and I actually looked up the story. Pretty interesting. But it is about an African princess who is taken to the Queen of England in like the mid-1800s and given to her as a gift. And she plays her dutiful part and, you know, allows herself to be molded into everything that they want her to be. But after years of being mistreated and abused and paraded around as a puppet and a pawn to show other people's superiority and humanity, she decides to take her revenge. And I love the quote that she has throughout the book where she says, their love is conditional, which I think is completely true. If you do as you're told and fit into this mold that people want you to be in the mainstream, then people love you, you're okay. But as soon as you don't fit that, then you're labeled an other, and then people have an issue with you. You're not allowed to have that autonomy if you're an other. So I completely understood exactly what she was talking about. I also loved all the historical references about the monarchy and their involvement in the slave trade, because a lot of time with England, people try to think that they weren't involved and try to separate and say that's just an America thing with our continued issues. No, boo, y'all still have issues too. And she talks a lot about how, you know, rich people are more concerned with their reputations more than actually taking care of people. So I thought that was pretty interesting, but good book, definitely something worth checking out. You just gotta kind of roll with it. And also looking up the story of Moba Aina is also very interesting as well. There's a lot of really good similarities. And that's prompt number 1. Prompt number 2 is spells and incantation. Read a book with a word from the last book title. I utilized the word "the." Very simple, right? And I read Blanche on the Lamb. Blanche on the Lamb was a fun time. You basically have this older black woman. She's about, I don't even know how old Blanche is, 40s, 50s. But anyway, this is somewhere in like the 1940s, 50s. And you know, Blanche, you know, has some shady employers that don't deliver her paycheck on time. So she's just trying to make it. You know, she's a maid in, you know, elite white households, and she's a black lady. And so she writes these checks, right? And has a bad history of it. So a judge decides he's going to teach her a lesson and sentence her to 30 days in jail, right? Instead of a slap on the wrist. Blanche is distraught, okay? But she's gonna serve her time. She said she's gonna do it. But when she's in the bathroom, somehow there's some sort of commotion outside, and she takes her chance to just walk on out the courthouse, right? So she decides to hide out while she's trying to wait for her income tax and takes a job, you know, in the country somewhere for another employer. And while she is this grown-up runaway, as she calls it, she realized that there's something not quite right about this family. Like, why is the aunt always holed up in the room? Why does the wife seem so timid? Is this husband just with the wife for the money? You know, who's the heir to this fortune? So she starts getting a whiff of what's going on, and so she starts to try to put 2 and 2 together when dead bodies start turning up, because she definitely does not want to be blamed. Now, Blanche is witty and she's smart. She understands who she is for the sign of the time, and that she understands why she could be loyal to this family. They're definitely not loyal to her, so she needs to watch her own back. So this book is very much aware of race relations in the time, and about how people with disabilities as well as darker skinned individuals are definitely underestimated. So she uses that to her advantage. But it was a really good book. Apparently it's a series that is out of Blanche and her, you know, murder mysteries. Not necessarily my thing, so I don't know if I would continue, but I was definitely very much interested in this book. I thought it was a good time. And let's see, restoration. Read a book with an average of 4 rating. Okay, and I definitely read I think I went above and beyond on this prompt. I read The Offer, which I did a dedicated video for. Okay, I actually read 2 books for that prompt by T.M. Richardson. There was The Offer and The Opportunity. I previously read The Oath. T.M. Richardson writes unconventional books for unconventional readers. You know, Black, LGBTQ, erotica, romance stories. It was a good time. It was a good plot with a whole lot of smuttiness into it, and I definitely appreciated it. So check out my video if you're interested in that one, okay? And the last magical readathon prompt is Elemental Studies, book with fruit on the cover. I found this one by the grace of my skin, okay? And you have a book with a group of friends that are basically plotting revenge for another friend that was, you know, used and abused. And that was a good fun time. I love the ladies plotted together. There was a lot of little references that I did not get, maybe different generations at times. But, you know, Margaret Atwood definitely has a unique perspective. And, you know, it was a good time. It was short, so I appreciated that, okay? And that is Magical Readathon. I also participated in Old School April. Now, Old School April are books and it's movies. So anything that's old school to you, okay? Old school to me is, you know, anything I think from me growing up, childhood type thing. Maybe even high school, maybe even college, you know? So we won't talk about the time frame. But I watched the movie Gremlins. I actually watched Gremlins 1 and 2. I don't think I ever saw 2, but they were all good time. The little gremlins are just absolutely hilarious. I watched Heathers. You gotta love Heathers. Okay, Christian Slater and Winona Ryder. Always a fun time. I love the little scrunchie. It's kind of dark, but still a good time. Ghostbusters. I mean, come on now. You can't go wrong with Ghostbusters. Good time. I didn't watch some of the other things on my list here, but I still have about 3-4 days left in April at the time of filming this. I may get some other stuff on the list, but this is where I'm at this time. I did watch Creepshow 3, by the way. I've already seen 1 and 2, and Creepshow is hilarious and kind of scary and gruesome all at the same time. So if you haven't seen that series, definitely check it out, okay? And as far as the books, I read Blanche on the Lamb for that because I was just looking for that 1950s, you know, time period. And then you have Vivid by Beverly Jenkins. Now, Vivid is a historical fiction book that is actually having a re-release or anniversary or whatnot after 25 years. And that's when I picked it up. But basically, you follow a black female doctor who travels to this black-owned, black-run town in Michigan in like the 1870s. And of course there's a lot of sexism because people, you know, don't really know much about a female doctor and much less a black female doctor. So she goes to this town, and not only does she have to win over the sheriff who is trying to run her out of town almost immediately, but also the people in the town. But you know, Vivid, her real name is Vivica, she, you know, takes her time winning over people. She knows her place in this world, and she knows that she has to make a name for herself and make people realize that she is a competent individual. And she does that very, very well. And also, not only is this a romance, but it talks a lot about like elevation of the black race, politics, Democrats versus Republicans, and the origins and what's going on around that time. It also talks about modern medical practices and how they came to be, and that whole antiquated idea of using leeches and bleeding people to cure them, which, you know, definitely did not work. But you know, it was a good time. It definitely had some very relevant things that it discussed. I did think that it was interesting that Vivica, for all of her doctor medically, you know, somehow doesn't realize like how the female anatomy work when it comes to, you know, pleasure. I thought that was very naive of her. You know, talks to some ladies out there. Tons of ladies had a baby, so I'm pretty sure they learned some stuff, okay? And I also felt it was weird that every time her and Nate were intimate, they were always outside and she was exposed while he was not. So that was just really weird to me. But I felt that she was a really nice, strong character, and I like that. And at times I felt that Nate annoyed me. And here she is, this self-made doctor, you know, and that happens to be female. And here's this guy that happens to be male that's a Nepo baby, you know, born into money, yet you're questioning her. So that just rubbed me the wrong way. But overall, I really did enjoy this book, and I enjoyed all the readathons that I participated in the month of April, and I'm excited to see what May brings. So let me know what you have read and what was your favorite book of April. Like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.